All right, good morning. Welcome to Klingspor's Woodworking Shop live extravaganza demonstrations. My name is Paul Rolfe. I will be your demonstrator today. I have been carving for over 40 years. I was trained as a traditional wood carver, meaning that I use 90% of the time I'm using gouges driven by mallets or by hand. And most of it is all hand work done by kind of a European style carving. Just recently finished a commission for a crucifix, so that type of work that I'm normally doing. But today I'm going to be demonstrating using power tools. And so you're wondering why a traditional wood carpenter has been using power tools, but the answer is really simple. To save time. Power tools remove a lot of waste when you're trying to produce something quickly and efficiently. Power tools are the thing to turn to because they will give you a quick result. The only danger that because you're removing wood so quickly, you can also move too much wood quickly, and before you know it, you've made a mistake and taken off so much wood. So you need to feel comfortable about where you're going, where the end result lies, so that you can learn to pull back and stop. And then the work that I'll be doing today is mostly with the power tools, just to remove the waste off of this project. Then we will or later I will go in with the hand tools and refine the shapes and further define and get the finished texture on. The power tools will not be leaving a finished texture that I'm after. They could, in some projects, leave that texture that you want, but in my case, this one will have to be finished up with hand tools. So the tools that I'm going to be using today are made by Arbortech. The power tools are driven in angle grinders, such as this, 4.5-inch angle grinders. There's 3 different ones that I'll be using today. The first one I ever had is the industrial wood carver. It is a round disc with 3 carbide teeth around the perimeter of the edge of the blade. The thing I like about this tool over other type of grinding tools most of the times is that these carbide teeth actually cut the wood. They leave behind a carved texture rather than an abraded texture. So the finishing process is a lot easier to do, to clean up after what the power tools do. These carbide teeth that are on the disc, once you use them for a while, they can actually be loosened and rotated to expose a fresh, sharp edge, and you tighten them back up and you get right back to work. You don't have to replace them. Eventually, you will need to replace them. But this industrial wood carver does a couple of things. Number one, it will cut straight down into the wood and remove wood quickly into a groove type of thing. Or you can lay it on its side and remove as much or as little bit of wood as you want. It'll take tiny shavings or thin shavings off, or it'll go down deeper and remove a lot of wood off the surface as well. If you want to remove more wood off the surface, the tool that you would use instead is a Turboplane. This also has 3 carbide teeth, but they are long-edged cutters in the disc that spin around, and it's designed to remove a lot of wood quickly from the surface of the wood that you're carving on. The third tool that I'll be demonstrating is called the ball gouge. I don't have that mounted on there, but eventually I will mount it. It's a spherical tool with a ring of carbide around it. This tool is great for going in and doing contours in hollow areas. This is a project that was completed a couple of years ago using the Arbortech tools to rough it out. Both the industrial wood carver and the Turboplane were used to give the rough shaping. The ball gouge was used to come in and find the details between the shapes between here. It also was able to come up in between the arms of the figure and clean this area out in here. So doing this by hand, this is all ingrained into this walnut, doing this by hand would have taken much more time. The ball gouge was made quick work of taking that out. The project that I'm working on today is a out of butternut, and it's a 4-inch thick piece of butternut that will eventually become a hat and coat rack. You can see what it is it's a hatchet that this is the trunk of a tree, a branch coming off that tree, and another branch coming off that then morphs into the handle of the hatchet, and then the head of the hatchet, the tip of it goes back into the trunk again, so it completes the circle around. The hatchet that I'm using as a model is this hatchet here. I just like the shape and the sculptural aspects that this hatchet has. The thing I don't like about it is the straight handle. So instead I have had a curved handle for the hatchet rather than the straight one, just to give it a little bit more shape. The first thing I'm going to do, and what I've done is marked off the blank. First it was sawn out on the bandsaw and the inside, then I drilled holes through the center here. It allowed me to get a long 6-inch jigsaw blade and cut out, remove the waste from the inside in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, obviously all of this material out here is all waste. I have marked it off roughly just so you can kind of see what the shape of it is going to be. This is the tip of the hatchet coming into the trunk of the tree, and the hammerhead protruding up here. Here's where you'll be able to hang a hat, and on the branch that comes out you'll be able to hang a coat from it. So the first step is to define, I'm going to make a cut with the industrial wood carver into here and into here to separate this wood from what will be the trunk. And then I'll use the Turboplane to remove most of the bulk of that material out there. One thing about power carving, especially when you're working with removing a lot of waste, is that you generate a lot of waste, and so expect to make a lot of waste. So you'll have need to keep your area clean, but also protect yourself with different, number one, I wear a respirator, and then over top of the respirator I have a face shield to keep the debris from coming into my eyes or face. The last thing I wear is, because these cutters produce chips rather than sawdust, and they come off that wood surface at a very high velocity, so they'll be constantly coming back onto my arms. So I have some nice long gloves here that I'll wear over my arms to protect my hands and wrists and the lower part of my arms from that flying debris. So get the safety gear in place. Start with the mask. I love these. This is an Eclipse mask, great for dust protection. I like it because it's a small profile, doesn't have the big canisters hanging out the side. Fits on snugly. And then the face shield. Eventually, when I get down to the details, if I need to wear my glasses, I can feel like I can still put my glasses on underneath of the face shield. But the first cut will be made with the industrial wood carver. And what I'm going to do is cut straight down in here. We're just going to look this way. Okay, all right, this next session, we're going to carve out the bowl of a spoon. There's lots of different ways to carve spoons. And the determining factor which method you use depends a lot on the kind of wood that you're using. If you're using a knife, for instance, it's best to have either softwoods or a green wood so that can be carved well with the knife, with the hand strength. With hardwoods, I generally prefer to use a gouge and a mallet to carve out the bowl of the spoon, and it goes very, very quickly with that. The only limitation to that is that I have to have a workbench. If you're carving a spoon with a knife, with a curved knife, you can do it anywhere. You can hold the spoon in your lap and you can do it right wherever you happen to be sitting. Whereas I'm pretty much tied down to a workbench because I have to have a hand on the two hands are occupied. One is driving the mallet into the gouge, and so that the spoon has to be tied down. The third way of carving is with power. Now this is bubinga, this spoon. I would not want to carve this spoon with a knife. In fact, I would be very surprised if someone could go all the way through carving a bubinga spoon with a knife. My hat would be off to them for sure, and their sore hands in the process. Even with a gouge, it could certainly be done with a gouge a whole lot better and a lot faster, but it's still tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Arbortech ball gouge to carve out the bowl of the spoon. It's going to go very quickly. The nice thing about the ball gouge, particularly on a hardwood like this, is it's going to leave a carved texture, which I can leave just as it is by itself without having to do any sanding or extra polishing or touching up or so forth. So putting the spoon blank into the vise, leaving it up just a little bit. Going to do this inside of the bowl with the ball gouge. The ball gouge has a carbide ring around it that spins around and carves in a nice contoured shapes. I just recently rotated that ring, so hopefully I have a nice edge on there. Okay. Due to the rotation of the ball gouge, I want to make sure that it rotates downhill so I don't lift any fibers, and particularly lift up the wood on the rim of the spoon. So if it's rotating this way, then it's cutting downhill on the rim here, but it's carving up here, and so I run the risk of breaking a splinter also. Simply to avoid that, I just turn it around and come from the other direction. Also want to frequently check the depth of how deep we're going so we don't come through the bottom of the spoon. All right. This next project is a manzanita root burl slab. Manzanita grows out on the western part of the country. The tree itself is protected, but you can go in and harvest, if you have a permit, go in and harvest the roots and the stuff that is from dead trees. So the manzanita, the roots have this burl pattern on them and just gorgeous color to them. When you finish them, the root color really comes out. But being a root burl, sometimes you get surprises inside of them. This particular one is pretty solid. There may be bark inclusions or places where bugs have got into them. Or what I'm going to do with this flat slab, after I did actually flatten it and I've sanded it up through grits up to used the Klingspor fusion pad up to like 3200 grit. So it's a very, very shiny, very fine surface here. I want to carve out 2 small bowl depressions in this. Now, this manzanita is pretty hard. It's a very hard, dense wood to work with, but it's well worth the effort to doing it. So I'm going to carve 2 little bowls in it, just to put whatever someone wants to put on them. So this will be a larger, deeper bowl here, and this one here, there's a small spot when I get into it, but I'm going to carve it anyway. If it's something that I find objectionable, and then I might be just it'll be an opportunity to enhance it with epoxy, with a filler or color of some sort. So I'm going to use, again, using the ball gouge on this. And I have this clamped to this backer board here so that I don't have to worry about putting clamps on the piece itself as I'm working on it, so it's secured as I go. Okay. We carved out the bowl of this Bubinga spoon with the Arbortech ball gouge. Now we're going to shape the outside of the spoon a little bit.